Hello guys, vision. Okay, we'll make it as brief as possible. Okay, so basically, how do you start drawing a picture? Okay, how do you start drawing a picture? Generally, is like you will have small dotted lines like this. If you want to draw a picture of a house, okay, you will have small dotted lines like this, or maybe like this. Something like this, and then there will be a square, and then you will join it together. Then later on you will join it to form nice straight lines. Okay, then we might want some color. Okay, so then we will add some color, and that's how we usually draw a picture. We might even add some amount of 3D and things like that, with differences in line, shadows. We'll do a lot of shadow work like this, like shading and things like that, so that it becomes a little real, and that sort of thing, to give the 3D effect and things like that. So this exactly is how we see. That is why we also draw like that. Okay, so the point is, what we are actually seeing, is it's not the actual information like in a camera, where all points of the camera megapixels are depicted till the end, all the way to the processor. That's not how our brain works, because this is too expensive for us to handle. So what the brain does is, how we see is by solving the edges, like the small, what are the edges? Okay, maybe using these edges we will create patterns like this: sliding edge like this, another edge like this, another edge like this, and you can create a lot of patterns with these edges. You can even make faces. Edge here, edge. Okay, these are all edges. So basically, solving edges will give you this kind of figures. Okay, so this is one thing that vision does: solves edges. Then, as we see, it solves colors. Like what are the colors that need to be done, what are the shadings, what is the exact color, and all these things are then added on to it. Okay, so it solves color. Okay, we draw the edges, solves color, and creates nice solves color, and extracts detail. As in, if you focus really hard on the macula, like if you directly focus all the light to the back of the fovea and things like that, you can make out differences. In the peripheral vision, you don't have very much detail. It's kind of blurred. If you see your own vision, you can see that it's slightly blurred outside, and it is very accurate in the center. So actually it can extract details if focused at the fovea, like small grains, the shading patterns, the small details like the thatching patterns of the roof, windows, and little shadings, and all these things we can actually get beautifully. Okay, small changes in contrast and things like that, and then it can even create some 3D effects and things like that. And so that is how it is. Okay, so it extracts details, and then we need motion sensitivity. Okay, now why is this motion sensitivity important? I will tell you, because just imagine there's a person looking. This is eye. Okay, you are looking from top down. Okay, so this is his eye. and okay, this is his eye. It is coming, crossing, or it's coming to the cortex like this. Okay, this is his eye, and okay, suddenly there is a fly moving around. Here there is a fly moving around. Okay, so this person has to know, because he might have to close his eyes, or he might have to turn around, or maybe it is a stone coming directly to his eye or through the sides or something. So this seems to be pretty important to know the motion. And another thing is that there are other cells which, like, if the whole, like, this is like the background is stable, he can see the house like this, and then when the background is stable, a fly is moving like this. At that point he can detect. Okay, that seems to be a very important thing that a living thing can have. Okay, maybe a frog needs to catch a fly. Maybe a mouse needs to know that, you know, something is moving on top of the head of the mouse, like an eagle trying to bite it or something like that. So all these things are pretty important. One more thing is that if you are moving your head too much like this, the point is that anyway the image will be falling on different parts of the retina, because it's the whole thing, your head is moving. But then all these motion sensitive cells will start firing. Yes, because the whole retina thing is moving. But these sensitive cells are actually based on background. Okay, so if there's a background like this, and then there's a small thing, this moves and this moves, both if background and the object in front moves, actually it is not recorded. It is not recorded. Okay, so motion sensitivity can be used in different ways. Okay, because you need to know whether you are moving your head or an actual thing is moving across your retina. I mean, the image of an actual thing is falling on your retina. So how do we solve vision? Okay, once more we'll go about. Okay, we solve vision by edge detection, color representation, adding in the details, okay, and then some real motion detection cells. Okay, so adding in the details is there. Okay, so this is how it is. Okay, so that is over, and we will start how the brain does all these things. Okay, so here comes okay, the retina. Okay, what is happening? Okay, the retina gets information. It goes through via the optic nerve, like, okay, here the retina gets information, it goes via the optic nerve, and in the center the lateral fibers come here, and the middle side of the other side comes here. That I guess you know. And here's the lateral geniculate nucleus. Okay, all these things happen. Here's the lateral geniculate okay, here's the lateral geniculate. What just happened? Okay, here's the lateral geniculate nucleus, and then it comes to the cortex. Okay, so essentially you would think that retina carries direct information from the light. No, actually retina carries in itself edge details, color details. Okay, details. Okay, I'll tell you how these color details are in. Movement details. Okay, all the processing is here in the retina, and the accuracy, all the accurate, the textures and all that we told, no, adding in the details, that is done in the cortex. Okay, that we'll deal with later. Okay, that not much of processing happens in the retina. So now we have to learn processing in the retina. Okay, processing in retina. How is this 100 million neurons, light sensitive cells, creating vision? So it is first processed in the retina, then it goes to the lateral geniculate nucleus. Okay, lateral geniculate nucleus does not much of processing, but it's like the relay center. Okay, relay center. And then it goes to the primary visual cortex here. Okay, so that's how it goes. Okay, now next we are going to study about this part, that is retinal processing. Okay, processing in the retina. So we are getting edge details, color details, and motion details. Okay, so how do we know that we get all these details? Okay, we have to know like what happens in the retina. Okay, so the point is, like, light comes from this side. Okay, it goes through it, activates the cone cells, and the cone cells essentially deactivates the cone cells. Maybe like these cone cells reduce glutamate in response to light. Okay, in increased light. So that is a signal. Whenever light comes here, the glutamate gets reduced. Okay, so that is how these phototransducers act. Okay, and then you see that it's not technically an action potential kind of thing. Okay, and the action potential kind of thing essentially generates like kind of at the ganglion cells, but also at the bipolar cells also. Okay, so bipolar cells you can take as the most important thing. So here is the phototransduction area. This is the bipolar cells that convert this into some information, and then this is the ganglion cell. Okay, this is the ganglion cell. Okay, now you can see that there are small, it's not very clear. Okay, you can see that here where all this is joined, you can see that there are cells like this lying around. See, connecting all the cells. These are called the horizontal cells. Okay, and these cells are actually inhibitory. These inhibit the firing of the bipolar cells. Okay, so essentially glutamate changes are recorded, and this inhibits. These are inhibitory cells. We'll talk about it later. Okay, so remember these cells, horizontal cells. Okay, then from the bipolar cells, it comes and gets fired into the ganglion cell layer. Okay, ganglion cell layer is like the main area of processing, and it takes all the processing from this layer. It goes to the lateral geniculate nucleus of the thalamus. Okay, and what are these cells but then? Okay, see, these are called amacrine cells. See, these are connected, 2 or 3 ganglion cells are connected by these amacrine cells, and it also has some connections to the bipolar cells also. That's not visible here. So there are lots of kinds of bipolar. So this is the basic structure. So amacrine cells are like complicated cells that connect the ganglion cell and the bipolar cell and whatnot. Horizontal cells, strictly at this level only, horizontal cells will act. Okay, and this is the general structure of the retina. Okay, and see the beautiful pictures. This is the cross section. Okay, if you look at the retina from, like, if you shine the light directly on the retina, the ganglion cells are the center, and look at its neurons. It's all the way around. It's all the way around, and you can see that there are different kinds of neurons. Some are small, some are huge, some are very huge, like this. So all these neurons are very, very, very different, and there are reasons for it. We can discuss that later. So, but there are reasons for all these variations. So if you look at it, there you go. If you look at it, essentially there are like cones, rods, yeah, and different 3 types of cones are all there, and rods are there. So there are a lot of phototransducer cells. These are like the horizontal cells that connect all these things. And then there are bipolar cells. You can see that there are small bipolar cells, large bipolar cells, wide based bipolar cell, wide top bipolar cells, different sizes and shapes. Okay, and each for different functions. There are lots of bipolar cells, and amacrine cells are the next layer that I told. There are also lot of amacrine cells. Depending upon the function, we can use whatever amacrine cells. Some amacrine cells are connected over large distances. Some amacrine cells are connected over small distances, small inhibition only. And huge number of data is calculated using all these kinds of cells. And there are ganglion cells that get information from a lot of area, and there are small ganglion cells that collect information from small areas only. And there are a lot of differences across all these cells. Okay, and all these cells are connected like this. Essentially, this is the pattern. Okay, what will be the case? Phototransducer thing, inhibition by the horizontal cells, bipolar cells firing, and to the ganglion cell. Okay, essentially, okay, phototransduction, then bipolar layer, and ganglion layer. Okay, ganglion layer. Okay, in this bipolar layer, there are horizontal cells like this that are acting like this. Okay, and in the lower layer, at the ganglion layer, amacrine cells are trying to inhibit, and a lot of connections are here. Okay, so this is the essential thing. So transduction, bipolar, ganglion, and amacrine between these 2 layers trying to control the ganglion firing, and horizontal cells trying to control the bipolar firing. Okay, so that much is done. So we'll go to the next thing, and you can see in the retina, if you see different all the types. If you take a part of the retina, just take the part of the retina. If you look at the one type of ganglion and you inject a dye into it and see where in the retina it goes, you can see that some ganglia receives lots and lots of very densely populated area with a lot of receptive areas. Okay, and some cells have like long dendrites, and the receptive area is very, very large. As in, the point is that the closer they are, it means that more details are there. The fovea, these things will be closer. In the periphery, these cells might be very further apart. Okay, motion detecting cells might be very further apart. It doesn't require details. Okay, it just needs to record motion, whether something is moving or not. So for that, it requires only wide coverage area. It doesn't require a small amount of details. But in the fovea, everything is very, very close and densely packed, so that you can differentiate between the details. Okay, so these are all just basic facts about the anatomy of the retina. Now let's start about the retinal processing. Okay, and you can see all these stylings. Okay, and you can see one thing. Okay, so this can be taken as the receptive field of this ganglion. Okay, and this can be taken as the receptive field of this ganglion. Okay, because all this is technically connected upwards to the the pigment layer. Okay, pigment, like the phototransducers. Okay, and this ganglion cell is firing, like if something gets fired from top down, it gets fired like this. Okay, if I get an opportunity to show the picture, I will show you. Okay, it's a very interesting picture. Let me just see whether I have it. Very interesting picture. I have taken a lot of screenshots. No, I don't have it. Okay, I'll just try putting it after the class, maybe. Okay. So anyways, this is how it is. All kinds of cells are like that. So if you see, it is like this, and okay, so that is retinal tiling. If you think like that, there might be other ganglions that can be here. In fact, each part of the retina has got color sensitive cells, direction sensitive cells, edge detecting cells. Everything is tiled, like if you take an area of the retina, here will be the closely closed cells, and if you take another color and try to draw, you can understand that, I guess. So if you look, it might be overplaced with the supply of what is happening here. It will be overplaced with supply of other cells like this. There will be a big neuron that connects all these things in the center of this, and it will be just near just on top of all these cells. Maybe these are the edge detecting cells that need to be close. What is happening? Okay, these might be the edge detecting cells that are close nearby, and this might be motion detecting cells. This might be motion detecting cells, and everything is parallel processing. Okay, so here a motion can be sensed, so edges can be detected at smaller distances. Okay, small edges can be detected, and so on. I mean, there will be a red cone here, and a red cone supplied here, and green cones might be here, and lot of things. Everything is tiled. There's an equal representation everywhere. You can I hope you can see that. I had a picture of that. Yes, where is it? Yeah, it looks something like this. Is just like the cone distribution. Okay, green, blue and red cone distribution, something like this. And there might be object detecting cell, motion detecting cells here on top of it. Is not visible. This is stained just for cones and rods. Okay, so every place of the retina has every single kind of cell, okay, and all the things are much closer at the macula. Okay, so there is more resolution there. Anyways, these are the basic facts. Now we can go into retinal processing. Okay, and whenever we think about retinal processor, we need to know how bipolar cells fire. Okay, bipolar cells always fire with center surround receptive fields. What do you mean by center surround receptive fields? It means that, see, you can see that, okay, there's, if this is a receptive field, all these neurons three-dimensionally in a circular area, if you look from above, okay, there will be like something like this. This part is like this part. Okay, just imagine that. Okay, I'll use blue, so that, okay, blue, and then orange, where is the orange? Okay, orange at the periphery. Okay, so this is what is really happening here. Okay, so you can see that there is something like this happening. Okay, if you look it from top, it will look like this. If you take the cut section and look as the cross section, like if you cut the eyeball and do cross section and see, it will look like this. Okay, so the center fields are connected to the bipolar neuron. Okay, if you see like that, it's connected to the bipolar neuron. Okay, and the surround fields are connected to the horizontal cell. Okay, I guess you have to be very careful following this. Okay, so the surround fields are all connected to the horizontal cells. Okay, the red things. So this is connected to the horizontal cell. Okay, we will mark it H, and this is connected to the bipolar cell. Okay, so this is the bipolar cell standing here, two poles, bipolar. Okay, and the surround has got horizontal cells, is connected to the horizontal cell. So now what the horizontal cell does is, horizontal cell will inhibit this bipolar cell. Okay, it will actually do inhibition at this level. Okay, so what will happen is, with the same kind of cell, you can get a response in center surround receptive fields. Now you may think, why the center surround receptive fields? Okay, first we will tell you what it means to have that. Okay, just imagine. Okay, this is called, I'm going to teach you what an, okay, I am going to teach you the most common example of surround center inhibition. Okay, so now what happens is, just imagine this is the receptive field of a ganglia, or there are lots of cones here and here, but the center is connected to the bipolar cell and surround is connected to the horizontal cell. Okay, surround is connected to the horizontal cell. Okay, and this is inhibitory. Okay, something like that, and this comes here, and there is a ganglion cell. Okay, and there are a lot of amacrine cells here, like something like that. It might be there, might not be there. We are not concerned here about that. We are just concerned about till bipolar firing. Okay, so now what will happen here? What is the need for this? I mean, I will tell you an example of a very most common type of receptive field action potential. It means the action potential is when there is a dark spot in the center and there is light in the periphery, there will be lot of firing. Then all this, it will go very much firing like that. Okay, so the point is, always these ganglion cells will be firing at a small level. Okay, but in this particular cell, when this firing was like this, it was keeping on firing like this, and then when the light was shined upon, at the periphery, okay, light was shined at the periphery on, surround, okay, surround on, okay, and the center was offed. Okay, you can see the experiments on YouTube, Hubel and Wiesel experiments. They will show you, like they show an image in which there is a center point like this, and they just make this very dark and the surrounding part very bright. Okay, and with that you will get very fast firing of the ganglion cells in this layer. Okay, this is called as it is center of surround on cells. This is the most common kind of cell. Okay. Hello guys, I have found out a very easier method, as in there's a good animation video. I will send the link in the description below. Check that to understand about receptive fields. And most importantly, you have to think for yourself and try drawing circles and see what is going to happen in different kind of cells. Okay.